Alright folks, it's expansion time. Expansions for what, you may ask? Expansions for Ascension Chronicle of the Godslayer. That's a game I reviewed just a little while ago, and if you watched the review, you know that I like Ascension quite a bit. What I haven't reviewed are all the many expansions that have come out between then and this newest expansion, which is Darkness Unleashed. Just as a reminder, this game was originally designed by Justin Garrett and is put out by Stoneblade Entertainment, originally called Gary Games, or maybe they're called both things now, I don't know. But this is actually Darkness Unleashed is actually sort of a follow-up to Rise of Vigil, which is a big expansion that came out right before this. If you're not really familiar with Ascension, how they usually do it is they'll release one major standalone game that's playable for 1 to 4 players. Then they'll have a small expansion, then another big expansion. So the last big expansion was Rise of Vigil, and this is the follow-up small expansion that kind of pairs along with it, Darkness Unleashed. And in Rise of Vigil, they introduced a new concept, which were treasure items, which is like a general catch-all category, but specifically in Rise of Vigil, they were energy shards, which really were just filling up your deck by themselves. What they do is you draw one, you play it, you gain this nebulous resource called an energy, and then you just draw another card. And it's possible you don't do anything with that energy, especially at the beginning of the game. But many cards in Rise of Vigil required that in order to get special effects from their cards above and beyond what they normally did, you had to have already had a threshold of energy. You don't spend energy, if you have that threshold, it'll kick off the effects of a number of cards that you either have in your hand, or that you have in play, or that you even defeat in the center row if they're monsters. Darkness Unleashed builds on that and adds a new type of energy shard, a new type of treasure, and transforming heroes. Well, what exactly does that mean? That sounds weird. It's not like those crappy transforming cards that Magic had out last year, were they? Well, let's find out. I'm going to show you everything there is to know about Darkness Unleashed, then we'll come back, and I'll let you know if this expansion is worth picking up. Okay, I'm not going to go over the base rules of Ascension or any of the previous expansions. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you what the new cards are in this one to let you know whether or not you want to purchase Darkness Unleashed. So I should point out that much like in the other expansions, it comes with some of the same basic stuff you need to play Ascension that the base sets have, and that is, more of the red and white gems that are 1s and 5s. You have more Apprentice cards with the same art from the Rise of Vigil set, more Militia cards, more Heavy Infantry, more Mystics, and more Cultists. Now, specific to the Rise of Vigil set and also appearing in Darkness Unleashed are the Energy Shards. Now, I know I didn't do another review of Rise of Vigil quite yet, but if you have never played Rise of Vigil before, Energy Shards basically, when they come out of the center deck, they're going to go into one of the slots, but you're going to keep drawing cards until an actual either hero, monster, or construct comes out, and then you put it on top of the Energy Shards in that slot of the center row. Whenever you defeat or acquire the main card, you're going to take all of these Energy Shards into your deck, and whenever you play them from here on out, they're basically like filler in your deck for the most part. When you play one, you'll just draw another card. But more importantly, you're also going to accumulate energy. When you get enough energy, you never spend energy, but rather on your turn, you meet a certain threshold of energy, and it could set off the effects of certain constructs that you have on the field, or cards that you're going to be playing from your hand on your turn, or even monsters that you defeat in the center row. And there are more energy shards in Darkness Unleashed, but there's also a new type of energy shard. I should also point out that these are all called treasure, because supposedly there's going to be even other kinds of treasure, not just energy shards in future sets, but nevertheless, in Darkness Unleashed there are dark energy shards. These work exactly the same as regular energy shards, but they have a fate effect. A fate effect occurs as soon as a card enters the center row. You're going to do its fate effect before you do anything else. In this case, for a dark energy shard, each player may banish a card in their discard pile. So it's actually kind of cool. It's another way to cull cards from your deck without having to have void heroes and void constructs and such. Otherwise, exactly the same as the regular energy shards. So let me show you some of the, generic common cards that really don't introduce any other new mechanics other than those that were introduced in Rise of Vigil and maybe other expansions, just to show you what you're in for. So We have the replication drone, which is just another way for a Mechana faction, which is already really overpowered, to have the possibility to have even more Mechana constructs, because this one construct does nothing else other than count as extra Mechana constructs. So I can see that being kind of combo-rific for the Mechana faction. I like this guy a lot, Dendris the Gladeworm. I think this is the first time I've seen any kind of hero or construct that gives you one of every type of currency except for energy. You get 2 runes, 2 power, and 2 honor, and if you do have energy, you can make it even more. So you could basically double everything there, so that's really great. She is really cool. Basically, you can just acquire or defeat a card that's 6 or less, but then if you can energize it, you can do both. So again, just like in Rise of Vigil, there's a lot of energy cards. This one's cool. You gain both 3 power and 3 energy. The Raven Siren, I like her a lot. You gain a rune, but if you energize, there's no set energize limit, but for every energy that you have that you've accumulated at the threshold, you can pay 1 less rune for a hero that turn. That's really great. Smoke Tyrant is a cool monster that either really works well or really doesn't. He's a trophy monster with an ongoing effect, so when you defeat him for 7, you're going to be able to keep him in front of you. And basically what happens is, in addition to the honor or renown that you gain, you're going to be banished the top 7 cards in the center deck. Every treasure that gets revealed that way gets put underneath the Smoke Tyrant when you take him as a trophy. And every turn, you can gain that many energy, equal to the number of cards underneath him. But if you don't banish a lot of energy, it's not really worth it, because just getting 4 honor for a 7, I have had instances where I defeated this guy and literally no treasure came out, so not great. I just threw him in the banishment pile at that point. This guy's cool. If you meet an energy threshold of 4, you can defeat him for free on your turn, and there's multiples of him in the deck, so that can be kind of overpowered. This guy's crazy. Moken the Huntmaster. You gain 5 honor every time you play him, which is great in and of itself. But at the end of the game, his honor value, which is one of the few cards I've seen that has a question mark, is actually equal to the number of treasure cards in your deck. So this set gives you many, many more reasons to have the treasure and energy shards. Valiant's Ascetic is an example of a type of card that is going to give you a better effect if you choose to banish him rather than just play him. Otherwise, he doesn't really do anything, but that can be a significant swing for you if you manage to pull that off, if you're willing to sacrifice him. There's a few cool constructs. Here's an example of one where they don't do anything except if you energize them, but their effect is really cool if you do. I love this monster. If you're able to defeat him, in addition to the honor that you gain, you can acquire a hero construct with, if you don't energize him, it's just 3 or less from the center row. But if you do energize him, it's 6 or less, so that could be game-changing. And this was kind of funny, I thought. The Gem Eater Leprechaun just gained 2 runes and 2 energy. Funny art, I kind of like that. So that's kind of stuff that you probably would have expected to see in the Rise of Vigil set as well. But what else is new besides those Dark Energy Shards? The main thing are the transforming heroes. And constructs, I should say. Let's show some examples. So, the Honest-Krot Tribesman. If you just look at the bottom effect, you buy him, you play him, you get a rune. Big whoop. That's what an apprentice does. But on your turn, if you have him in your hand, and you have an energy threshold of 2, you can transform him. When you transform a card, you're going to take the original card that you have, and you're going to take it out of the game. Not the banishment pile, you're literally going to throw it off to the side. It's out of the game. And then from the sideboard of the game, you're going to grab his transformed version, not just add it to your deck, but add it to your hand when you transform him. And that is usually, that means you can play him immediately, and he stays around your deck forever. And he is usually much better. He turns into the Honest-Krot Chieftain, where you gain 3 runes every time you play him. You see that the honor stays the same. Well, I'm sorry, actually the honor went up on that, so that can be a significant reason too to make sure you have energy. And there's a lot of these. There's the Scrap Scrabbler. If you manage to transform him, you're going to pull out the Scrabbling Squad, which gives you 2 runes and 2 power instead of 1 and 1. I like this one a lot. The Gemcatcher Spirit. His normal effect is just draw a card. Big whoop. But if you transform him, Otherworldly Guide, draw 2 cards. Great thing to have. And very cheap too. Voidsworn Warrior, gain 1 power. No big deal. Void Sworn Champion, gain 4 power. Fantastic. Jekeb, the Cobra Shaman, 3 honor. That's actually pretty good in and of itself. Jacob the Cobra King, 6 honor. And when you gain honor from another card this turn, gain twice that much honor instead. He's insane. You see these are getting progressively better. Torek the Devoted Disciple, copy the effect of the hero in the center row. Not if he's Ascendant, in which case you acquire a hero without paying its cost and put it into your hand. That is an insane combo generator right there. Azrax of the Black Watch, 4 power, pretty good, but not as good as his transformed form, which is 6 power. You can banish any number of cards in your hand or discard pile. Right then and there, that's game-changing. And this guy, pretty awesome. The Monolith, which actually is a construct and has no other effect, but if it transforms, which is an energy threshold of 4, which is higher than a lot of the other ones, it actually turns into a Mechana hero, in which gives you 5 power and an additional 1 power for each Mechana construct you control, because the Mechana faction is all about comboing off each other. And when you play a Mechana construct, you can return this from your discard pile to your hand. So good. Now here's a monster, the only monster in the deck that does the transform thing. He's actually the centerpiece of this whole set, of the very loose story of the set, Erebus the Exiled. If you have played a Dark Energy Shard this turn, you can pay 2 less to defeat him, so that's cool. But he doesn't have any honor to give you. That seems kind of weird, right? But the reward is that you get to transform him and put him into your deck. What do you transform him into? Erebus, son of Nyx, who's worth 7 honor, so that's significant. And if you defeat a monster you can defeat a monster in the void without paying its cost and put it on the bottom of the center deck. That's awesome. So that is the main centerpiece of this, in addition to the Dark Energy Shards. So let's go back, and I'll tell you what I think about all this, if you couldn't guess already. Oh, I should point out one more thing, that this game actually gives you the option. All those cards I showed you right there were one-sided, so you'll keep the transform cards off to the side at the beginning. But if you play with the game sleeved, an easier thing to do is that they have double-sided versions of these cards, in which case at the beginning you're going to keep them all on their untransformed side, and then you'll just, when you transform them, you'll actually take them out of their sleeve and flip them over. So that's a nice little addition. Now let's go back, and I'll tell you what I think. All right, seconds ago for me, but several minutes ago for you, the viewer, I asked if this expansion was going to be worth picking up. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Even if you don't have Rise of Vigil, but you have the base game or some of the other expansions, this expansion is worth it, and it's going to make you run out and get Rise of Vigil. I've heard people complain about the treasure items, the energy shards, that it's just another clunky mechanic. It adds some fiddliness, and it doesn't really actually do much. It feels like an artificial type of game mechanic that they're throwing into Ascension. And I can't really rebut the whole thing about it being fiddly, and certainly this game adds another layer of sort of fiddliness by having another stack of cards you have to worry about in the form of the transformed heroes that you keep off to the side. Unless you're playing the game sleeves, and God, I don't recommend that, especially if there's just too many cards. But anyways, so I can kind of understand the complaints. On the other hand, that whole energy mechanic is cool, and the transforming heroes in this set are super cool. Like I hinted at before, Magic tried this last year with one of their sets that was a ripoff of Ravenloft from D&D, and it didn't work because none of those cards were all that great. And when you're trying to do Magic competitively, the only way you could do it was sleeving it. At least they were smart enough with this set that they gave you the 2 options. If you don't sleeve it, you've got the one-sided cards of both, and you just have to keep the transformed one separate. Nevertheless, but you do have the option. They're all good, and it feels so cool to be able to transform a card, and then you just get to use it right away. It would have been an awful, awful decision to just let you transform a card and say, well, this turn I transform this card, and all right, I guess I'm done. No, you get to transform a card and use it right away. That's great. I love it. It makes sense thematically. There's not much theme in this game, but that makes sense. And boy, before I get ahead of myself, I have to say, the artwork is starting to get better. I think that this Eric Sabi guy, and I have ripped this guy a new one in my gaming group, in my previous Ascension video, on the forums, on BGG. I've just ruthlessly ripped this guy apart for being an awful artist. He's getting better. I actually like some of the art here. It's not great. if you ever put this up against some of the art that Magic the Gathering does, it's just no contest. But still, it's getting better, and it just added to this game this expansion in my enjoyment of it. But getting back to the mechanics, I really like the transform cards. I like some of the other new cards. I don't know if you would call them generic cards, but the cards that don't really have the new mechanics but just are very, very cool. Some of the cards that let you banish a card to do a really cool effect. If you can work out the math and the points are better, maybe it's better to dump that card permanently. I don't know. The dark energy shards, well, they're not all that different than the regular energy shards, but I love culling cards in Ascension. Getting rid of those apprentices and militia just seems even more important than in other deck building games. Every deck building game needs a culling mechanic, and it's very central to the core of the game, but it's even better, and it's even more important and relevant in Ascension. So that's why I love the Void faction so much. I think everyone loves the Void faction to one degree or another. I don't know. I just really think that this is a fantastic expansion. I love the direction this is going in. I felt like some of the other new mechanics they had released prior to Vigil were just okay. The Soul Gems thing was okay, but not really necessary. I've never felt the need to bust that out every time I play Ascension after it was released. The event cards were never all that relevant. Most of the time they just sit there like a lump. But this whole energy mechanic, I love it. I really do. I think this is Vigil and Darkness Unleashed together. It was just what this game needed to give it a refresher, to kick it into high gear, to have it stop collecting dust on my shelf, which is exactly what was happening in the wake of all the other better deck builders that I had. Now I feel like Ascension is on par with those. I can't imagine I'm ever not going to play with at least this or Vigil, Rise of Vigil together or separately, but at least one of those. That's how much I like them. That's how much I like the new mechanics. If you love Ascension, if you did love Ascension but needed to get back into it, like if it was collecting dust like it was for me, you might want to try this. I think that you're going to like it. Okay? Well, my name is Nick. I hope this convinced you that it's a good expansion, because I certainly think that it is. This has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.